Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Cowboys Takeover. I'm your host, Jason Kent. And yeah, we're a little late recording this post-game podcast this week, but Mr. Aaron James and myself both thought it would be best to wait till after the Eagles-Niners game today to kind of see how that played out, because, you know, not only does that have implications on, you know, Dallas and Eagles in the division, it also has number one seeding implications as well. So we wanted to kind of see how that shook out before coming on today. But I'm going to bring in my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend. You know, I can't say enough wonderful things about this guy, Mr. Aaron James. Aaron, how are you today, sir?
Hey, Jason, I'm doing good, man. And boy, am I, extra excited for what's taking place at Lincoln Financial right now. The Philadelphia Eagles are receiving, I'm going to steal a word from you, a shellacking.
That's a good word. And that's a great way to put what's happening to them right now. Yeah, San Fran, you're watching that game, and I was watching. I was like, it's going to be a good game. And after that first quarter, when Philly went down, had to kick 2 field goals, and then the quarter's over, and they're like, yeah, it's like 110 yards, -6. You're like, man, how many times just in football have we seen that happen, where the team just in the first quarter just comes out and looks terrible and then just takes over? They just went down, I think scored like the next straight 6 possessions or something like that. So, I think it was good to watch, kind of see, what we're looking towards next week. I know, we'll talk about, really get into the Eagles-Dallas game next week, but, let's dive back to what we saw with Dallas this last weekend, or last Thursday night. A much tougher game than either one of us expected. And I think what really stood out to me, I really think we should dive in. I know we typically go a little back and forth, but I think we should just dive into this Dallas defense and this performance that we saw this last week against the Seattle Seahawks defense. And really I don't know other word to put it. If we're going to use the word shellacking, I think, he kind of redeemed himself with an interception late in the game. But Deron Bland, man, after, 2 weeks of just praising him and giving him all the adulation that he definitely deserves. He was matched up against DK Metcalf, and felt like DK just handled him. And it really felt like they were throwing a lot. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba did really well. Like, it felt like everybody, they were targeting Bland, which was really shocking. The way the season's played out. What were your thoughts about the performance of him and just the overall defense in this last weekend or Thursday night game?
Yeah, so, the Seahawks saw something on tape where they thought they could take advantage of Bland's footwork, whether it be his footwork or positioning. A couple of the instances I saw, his hips were faced the opposite direction of where the wide receiver ended up going. Obviously, I think the first Seahawks drive, Metcalf just breaks in and gets a catch that goes to the house on an in route, and that is uncharacteristic. Every now and then it's really hard to be perfect in that position. We've been talking about him not only the last couple of weeks, but really since Diggs went down. He's been carrying that heavy load and burden. Like you said, he did make up for his game with the interception. A frustrating thing we'll come to probably in the coaching segment is that Cowboys didn't turn that interception into any points, which was really frustrating. He did get beat on a deep ball that was just had perfect ball placement, and to me, a perfect ball always can always overcome perfect coverage. And then you get the PI at the end of the game, at the end of the first half, in the end zone. That was really initially looked like a catch for a touchdown. That was shortly overturned thereafter. So just a lot of ups and downs for Bland. I think, just based on the interception and his personality, I think he's going to rebound just fine. I think he's going to look at the tape. He's got DQ. he's got a future Hall of Famer in Gilmore that can bring him in and bro, let's take a look at this together, and let's talk through keeping this from happening again. Because interestingly enough, with DK Metcalf, you have another similar physique um, in Brown coming in with the Eagles next week, right? So the Eagles may try to replicate what they saw there.
Yeah, and it was definitely, just an uncharacteristic performance. I did not think this defense would look like this season against a team like Seattle. I thought we had a lot of firepower on defense, and it just felt
Yeah.
like Geno had a lot of time, and he was hitting those guys on the cross. So every sort of route, he was just throwing dimes this week, and the defensive line didn't get home like they have in weeks past. It was a deflating performance against a team that I thought we'd really handle. You go into the half down 20 to, forget what it was at the half,
21-20.
21-20. Yeah. And then you still give up, it felt like you said to me, they made the plays when they had to. The defense did come up big, at the end, but it just felt like Seattle, what they were just going at will. And it just felt like they had no answers for what they were doing. And it does make me nervous looking forward now at, Eagles are, like you said, I think they have a similar overall offense. They're probably a better offense, but, A.J. Brown's a big receiver, Devontae Smith. And I wonder what it was. I'm hoping it was just they were looking past Seattle, just not really thinking about them defensively and thought they would just handle them and get home. Because I think the last few games they've had like 4 or 5 sacks. They just didn't get home this week. So you do want to see DQ really go in and Micah and the boys, D-Law, and just really, come out, get ready this week, because you can't have that type of performance linger, especially when you have to, Philly's coming to town this next week. It just was not good overall. But, I guess the positive, like you said, they did, once they finally got that lead, they did shut down and they came up and made the big plays when the big plays needed to be made. At the end. So it was good to see them finish that performance and not really need to have Dak go down and score much, but where, they did end the game, they were able to get it iced with that field goal. It felt like that field goal really put it not out of reach. It's only 6 points, but it really felt like you needed that, and they had to go down and score where they really weren't the last couple possessions. But
yeah, I think there were several points throughout the game. I mean, it's kind of one of those wonky games where everything just goes the offensive way for both teams, right? So we give up some uncharacteristic plays. We give up the big 70-yard plus touchdown run to Metcalf. Gilmore gets called on pass interference in the end zone on a 3rd down that leads to a touchdown. And then let's see. So, I mean, just those two right there, you got 14 points. So, there's some things like that you can look at in this game and, have some takeaways like, okay, that we made these mistakes, some self-inflicted, get them corrected, and it shouldn't have been, this close. Also, to your point with the defense, shut down the Seahawks offense to the point where they were 0-3 on 4th downs. And, a game with 0 punts, 19 total penalties for a total of
it was a lot of
257 yards. I mean,
like it was getting so bad at one point where the announcers even mentioned they're still like 100 yards away, but they're starting to mention the all-time record of penalties. So it was getting pretty bad at one point there.
Yeah, and my concern, and I've shared this for I feel like a couple weeks now with our defense, and with DQ, we play so much man to man. You started to see a team like that has 3 strong wideouts, just knowing what we're going to do in coverage, kind of find ways to beat that. And
it felt like they were running a lot of the crossers. Yeah, they kind of knew, and there was a lot of those. Yeah, you saw, I think Jackson Smith and Jig, but he hit a couple of the crosser routes from the inside, and it was something where I thought maybe they were going to try to switch it up and go a little more zone and just not have their guys run with them. But even that one touchdown, I think that got them to 35. It was a crossing route in the back of the end zone. So you need to see maybe some more looks now that you know, because come playoffs, you're going to you have the San Frans, you have the Eagles, you have, you know, Detroit, who's a team we'll be talking about a little bit later. Just, you know, the offensive firepower that these teams have. You got to start, I think, switching up their performances and what you do defensively. You know, but I think from going from that super sour note, I think something we can look at and just take, you know, huge positivity on, and something I think we looked very good this week is this Dallas offense. And again, it just starts with none other than, I think, a guy that's definitely your MVP candidate. He's definitely in the talk. And Dak Prescott had another, you know, really good week. I know he was sacked 4 times. It felt like some of those weren't really, you know, it wasn't getting blown.
Coverage
There wasn't
sacks.
more
Yeah.
coverage sacks, but he had to finish with 299 and 3 touchdowns. And the big thing you see there is the no interceptions, and he's still, you know, hitting everyone. There's so many players with targets. You know, the one thing you did mention to me, and I think you said it during the when we are doing the live show, you know, it just doesn't feel like Gallup's in there as much as anymore. But it is good to see him starting to throw to Tolbert. You know, him getting involved, and Cook's getting more involved, and even Turpin on his different plays. So this offense is really, you know, kicking on all cylinders right now. They look so good. You know, I think this is the best, you know, the best stretch of football I think Dak's probably played in his career. You know, even including that 4-game stretch before he got hurt. He just looks so good. He looks dialed in right now, and just everything feels like it's going right for him.
Yes. I mean, 411 total yards. I know we went live for the first half, and man, Dak was on track for 400 yards, but ends up with looks like 275 passing yards. That doesn't sound right, but
299.
299. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not sure why this application I'm looking at has 275, but anyway, 8 for 14 first down, 33 total first downs. You know, I got to continue to, you know, give a shout out to Brandon Aubrey. Continues to make the extra points and the 2 field goals that he made. You know, without the field goals, I mean, Seattle missed one, right? So if Seattle goes 100%, it's a 3-point game, and their play calling is going to be different at their last drive if they're only trying to get 3 points to extend the game rather than having to go for a touchdown. So
Yeah.
I thought Aubrey did a great job. Again, disappointed that we didn't turn Bland's interception into points. I think that's more of a coaching discussion that we'll get on. Now, one of the criticisms I have against Dak, his deep balls have not been his best. You know,
No.
our guys are beating the defenders, and he's going for the pass interference. It looks like he's putting a lot of air under it, underthrowing them, and not giving our guys a chance to go deep. So, loved your comments on that. With just 2 other comments for me here. You know, Fergie continues to dominate. Seems like he's getting better and better each and every game. And then our offensive line, you know, there were some coverage sacks like you mentioned, but they seem to be gelling well. Tyrone Smith is getting rest during the week, and it seems to be paying off in gold. So we're continue to hit on all cylinders. And I mean, when Dak had to play a perfect game because we just had it was just a back and forth high scoring game. You know, he came through, and there was at least 2 critical drops with CD Lamb. There
Yeah.
was one in
The
the
one
end
on
zone,
4th down too.
the one on 4th down. So those were very disappointing and drive killers, obviously. And the one on 4th down, I think, was the Bland interception. So, you know, we could have even done better. The numbers could have come to show better. Several trips to the red zone. I think we were over 50% is how we ended in this particular game.
No, and I think too. Yeah, the big thing you said, Ferguson. He's really, you know, really stepping up this year. And he was, you know, I know you've been big on him since the you know, preseason. He's really filling in those shoes that we, you know, I kind of would have liked to see Schultz stay, but Ferguson really seems to be taking over and taking that next step. And Dak is trusting him, as you can see, with all the targets. And I do like the fact that in a game that was close like this, that was high scoring, he really fed CD Lamb. He's just showing and continuing to showing um, why he's one of the best receivers in the league. And it's crazy that teams even doubt him, or people doubt him and his ability. And is he a prototype? No, but he gets the job done. And that's really all that matters. And it just has so many weapons. Cook's had another touchdown this week, and he's continuing his resurgence. So it's so good to see. And even though the numbers weren't there for Pollard, 20 carries for 68 yards, I do like the fact that we got him 20 carries and in a game that when I was shockingly close, and I would have expected him to have less carries. Still get him 20 carries and 4 catches. I think he had 3 catches on 4 targets. So the offense is just, again, I think it's still continuing to move on all those cylinders. And it's good to see in this upcoming schedule we have left here. But the last thing you had mentioned a couple times, about the coaching performance this week. And I do think it's something to be really harped on. The 2 real scenarios, and it's kind of on a 3 drive stretch in that game, where Dallas is coming back and, they score to make it 20. I think it was 26 to 28. So, they're within 2. And you're like, okay, we've been going for it on 4th down. My guy, he knows we're down 2 points. Any conventional wisdom says go for 2. And at that point, it's not one of those situations where you're chasing the points. You're down 2 points, 2 points saves it. And he kicks the extra point, and that really befuddled me with what we've been seeing McCarthy do this season. And it's really just the next drive, right? We come out, we get that touchdown, we get it to within 1. And then, next drive, Bland comes out and gets that interception and puts us in. We're in points. We have points. We're at the 38-yard line. It's a 50-something yard field goal. And then he just skipped going for 2 to tie the game. As soon as we get this interception, I'm thinking points on the board, we're getting the lead regardless. There's no reason with you just not going for 2 to risk it on 4th down and give up points. And then McCarthy does that. And like we said, it was the drop by Lamb that couldn't, I don't want to say cost us on that drive. You don't know what would have happened there on out, but McCarthy had points on the board and gave them up. And to me, you can't have that. You just, especially when you just didn't go for 2 in a 2-point game, to give up points to give you the lead. I just don't know the logic there. And I just don't know. That one really befuddled me and really questioned, kind of brought up, and I know he's on a heater and we discussed it, but it really questioned, I feel like, his ability to coach in those situations and key moments. He just feels like he didn't know what he was doing.
So, it's a high scoring game, a lot of back and forth on the scoreboard. I mean, we probably, there were, I think, 2 or 3 lead changes. I'm not really disappointed about that 2-point, not going for it on the 2 points when we got to 26 to 28, but I was beyond disappointed and confused and a little bit angry when McCarthy decides not to go for the 3, and because eventually you're going to have to go for the 2. Okay, that's a given because you're already behind and it's a back and forth game. Why not take that risk out of the game right now? We just got to pick. Let's swing it back. Let's get points and put our defense back on the field and keep momentum. You just gave Seattle momentum back by going for it on 4th down. Even on the risk, on the momentum factor alone, it's not worth the risk. So, but Jerry Jones continues to praise aggressiveness, and I think at this point, some of it is McCarthy wanting to please the owner. I think that plays a role in his decision making.
But I'm 100% in agreement with you there. If he goes for 2 and doesn't get it, and then's like, okay, I don't even care, I'm going after the interception. To me, if you're going and I was 100%, I agree with what you're saying, but to me, you can't. That's where I don't get it. You're so aggressive every time, and in a point where it's a 2-point game, you skip it and take 1 and then
Mhm.
don't kick a field goal after you get an interception when you're in. And I get the point. You don't want to, you don't want to blow a great opportunity, and that's what they did. And
Mhm.
you want to get a touchdown there, but sometimes it's better to settle for the field goal, and it really makes you question, because I think there's been a lot of these decisions that have cost us this year. Right now, thankfully, Seattle's not one of those. They're not San Fran, they're not Philly, so it didn't beat us this game. But those are decisions come playoff times you just can't have, and I'm really worried because especially we that was our big off season and coming in this year. How the last 2 years ended, kind of his play calling. I felt like was a real downfall in our seasons at the last 2 years. So it really makes you question come playoff time if getting rid of Kellen Moore was the move, because I get Kellen Moore was the guy, but he had influence. So it just
Mhm.
makes me question why this. I don't want to be in those situations come playoff time. It really makes me worried about his play calling.
Yeah, because if you go against you're going to go against better teams in the playoffs, and they're going to make you pay for those types of mistakes. If he goes for the three, let's also talk about our last drive of the game, where he chooses to pass instead of run the ball, and make get that those last 40 seconds off of the clock and give Seattle short time, right? So if we go for the field goal after the Bland interception, uh, and you add our last field goal in our final possession, we're up. It's a two-score game.
Yeah.
So you ice the game, it's done, it's over. But because of that coaching decision, now our defense needs to come out and get a big stop again when they've, let's call it, that we were getting burned for a majority of that game on defense.
Yeah, it was really worrisome because you just saw them getting beat a lot. And with DK out there and Lockett and the way Smith and Jigba looks this season, it really felt like you could have went either way. But it was really good. Really good to see the defense step up. And yeah, a lot of those, I did forget, the one where he went for the pass instead of let's just kill timeouts. Let's just get the clock out of here. About a minute left
Yeah.
and just get out.
No,
It's tough. You can't be having that situations.
I do like the play call because CD did try to run a double move. Of course, you're going to assume the cornerback is just paying attention to the sticks, but he doesn't bite. Now, Dak Prescott in that situation has to know and see, like, okay, he didn't beat him. Let me just take a knee, try to run the ball, but not throw the ball away and stop the
Yeah,
clock.
just lay
That's
down.
all. Yeah, so that's also a, a QB decision making in there that could have improved our situation. And it goes back to what I mentioned, maybe in week 3 or week 4, Super Bowl game, Mike McCarthy with the Green Bay Packers. Clay Matthews was the one that finished that game. It wasn't an Aaron Rodgers drive. It was the defense. So it kind of, this game to me just showed me that it's likely going to be the same throughout the playoffs, that we're going to need our defense to bail us out of either our offensive play or coaching decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, we're looking at it, it's very close to the playoff time, right? I think we have 5 games left at, 5 games. So everybody, we're down in the last 5 games of the season. Um, and right now I think it's a great time because can't remember a time where that number 1 seed was really this close. I feel like there's a lot of teams right now when you look at it. You have Philly, Dallas, Detroit, who I don't think many people thought would be in this position, and San Fran. So there's definitely the 3 big guys we all thought would be there, the 3 teams you and I had mentioned early in the season. And then that 4th team in San Fran, all within a game. That's what makes, I think, each game so important. It's what makes that loss to Arizona that we had early in the season that we shouldn't have lost them very big right now, because instead of being 10-2, we're 9-3. And San Fran, that blowout loss to San Fran, it was a huge seeding implication game. And then again, the loss with Philly is a big seeding implication game. But I think when you really look at it, Dallas doesn't hold their own destiny, even if they beat Philly this week. So they are going to need some help in their schedule really winning, but also there is San Fran. This guy, right here, Mr. Zach DeGarmo, who I know is a San Fran fan. Just they put a real beating, on Philly today, and it really, they're definitely rooting for Dallas next week. But what are really the chances when you look? I wanted to really present the 4 schedules to you, Aaron. When you look at it, the Dallas so far, this remaining schedule is a real gauntlet with Philly next week. We have Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, and Washington. So when you look at that, Dallas can really set themselves up because you do play 2 of those teams that are in the discussion. You'll need some help with San Fran losing, but is that a schedule that they can really win out? If
4
you like
playoff
gut of
teams.
guts,
Yeah, 4 playoff teams. I do think that we can win out. We last I checked, we were favored. There was ESPN analytics that showed we were favored going into every game. I think, although it might have had like 50 or 51% for maybe the Dolphins game. The Dolphins play really well at home. So it's going to be really hard to run the table. I think our focus should be not the number 1 seed, although that would be amazing, but just winning the division. And I have a trap game for the Niners because they have to play, or sorry, for Philadelphia because they have to play Arizona. And I'm looking at how Arizona's been doing, and they have Gannon is their coach.
yeah.
He came from Philly, so I think he's going to want to, show something there against his former team. And yeah, they also played the Giants twice. Did you see DeVito's
Yeah,
throwing up some touchdowns?
I don't know. Not like, yeah, against bad teams to Saquon Barkley. But yeah, now that you're going into it, Dallas or Eagles, I'm sorry, finish with Dallas, then Seattle, then you have New York, Arizona, New York. You can call Arizona a trap game if you want. To me, Eagles most likely win out. I think they lose. I do think Dallas wins next week, but I think 4-1. I don't see them going worse than that. I think they handle if they do have another loss, it'll be that last week against the Giants where they just bench everybody. I don't really think that's going to be. So that's why this week, even just That's why I'm not really super worried about the number 1 seed. Like you said, look at the division. I don't know. If you beat Dallas or if you beat Philly next week, you're right there in the hunt to get that number 1 or get to your division win and get at least a 2 seed. More than likely, because if Dallas gets there, you beat, depending on how things shake out with Detroit, they could get that number 2 seed and have home field until the conference. But then you really look at San Fran, a team that really slacked us, really beat the Eagles bad. Another slacking on the Eagles. They finished with Seattle, Arizona, Baltimore, Washington, and then the Rams. To me, I feel like that's another 4-1 at worst. I do think they're better than Baltimore, so that they could possibly finish out their season 5-0 and finish with 3 losses. So it's Dallas would need some help from a Baltimore or one of those bad teams to really beat San Fran for Dallas to have any shot. So it's tough to say it's realistic for Dallas to get the number 1 seed looking at that San Fran schedule, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. So now, I think we were both impressed with what the Seahawks showed, and I think they should steal one of their next 2 games, whether it be against their division rivals in the Niners or at home against the Eagles. Um, I do think Seahawks will try to steal one because their backs are against the wall. They're a well-coached team. And I forgot to mention, I would say, based on talent and expectations, we were outcoached when we played the Seahawks. They just seem to have come in more prepared. So I think the Niners can see either 1 or 2 more losses. Sometimes they have these wonky games where they just kind of don't show up. But the thing with them is if they're healthy and Trent Williams is out there and Debo's out there, very hard team
They're going
to
to
play.
be hard beat. Yeah, and then the last schedule you look at, Detroit, who I think out of all the teams probably has the least likely. They have Chicago, then Denver, and then you have Minnesota, Dallas, Minnesota. So it's very possible, depending if Justin Jefferson gets back. You see Minnesota's really stepping up right now. So it's tough to believe they're going to go, beat them twice. And then I do believe Dallas should beat them. So I don't really see them finishing better than 3-2. But it's really Dallas doesn't hold their own cards for the number one seed, but all you can do is right now take it week by week. And I think, that's why this game against Philly is so big, because you then give your yourself an opportunity for at least, the number 2 or number 3 seed. At least get one home playoff game, get yourself in, get to stay at home at this late of the season. Just sleeping in your own bed helps. So I think going week to week, and then if you are a wild card, that's what I'm worried about, is because you have all these good teams. You don't want to slip out of that first wild card, because if you do, Detroit is probably going to be one of the top 2, but then you could either have to face San Fran or Philly if you're not that number
in your second game.
Or not even, possibly your first game. If you don't get that number 1 wild card seed, there's opportunity to get San Fran or Philly. So it's, you right now, I think, like you said, don't really look. Let's not think about, number 1 seed. Let's think week to week, starting with Philly, because that gives you an opportunity. But it's tough for them. I think looking at it now, it's really down to San Fran or Philly for that number 1 seed. It's going to, I find it very hard to believe with Dallas's schedule. I don't know if they can catch Philly. I know if we beat them next week, we go to, it is the same record. I don't know if they can catch Philly. It's a tough schedule. But
yeah, we're just, hey, we're on a hot streak right now. So we're going to need that to carry through December. And if it does, we'll have a lot to be excited about. If opposed to us kind of just edging out of these games that we've been playing the last month, we'd be like, oh man, now December's when you really got to get it going. No, we're in a really good position because we had a really great November. So we have, I feel like, the momentum on our side, where our confidence level should be right there with San Francisco. So long as that continues to carry week by week, Micah's going to get hungry. If you guys missed it, Dak went to the defense in this last game against the Seahawks and said, hey, go out there and win us the game. And Parsons was, he had a response, something to the effect of, man, that's my quarterback right there. I got to do this for him. And you see them hugging in the locker room, pounding each other. Man, these guys believe in Dak as their leader, and he's going out there and he's balling. So let's go, Cowboys Nation. Let's continue to pump our chest. Now we've had some ugly losses this season, yes, but now we're cooking. Now when it matters, we're not the same team that we were in September. So let's go get it.
I agree with everything you just said there, Mr. Aaron James. That was a beautiful little soliloquy and a great way to really end the show for today. I agree with you 100%. Let's take it week by week, and we're not the same team. This is not the same team that was there. Even against Arizona, you could tell because they came back and they finished the game against Seattle. So they're definitely not the same team. And Mr. Aaron James is right. We're ready to roll into January. Let's go over these next few weeks. Let's be loud. Let's get some wins. And we really appreciate everybody for watching us today, being in here with us, really the comments. We really appreciate every last one of you. I really just want to give an ask. Go follow our socials. Give us a give us a like on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, Cowboys Takeover Podcast. We really, any discussion there is great. And then give our YouTube page a like or subscribe, whatever they do on YouTube. And you can check us out there on our YouTube page and our Facebook live usually every Sunday, Thursday, Monday, Thursday, somewhere around there. Every time we go live for these shows, and We just really want to appreciate you, and then we want to let you know next Thursday we'll definitely be dropping our pregame episode for the Sunday night game against Philly. Probably around 6:37. We'll let you know. Maybe a little bit later. We'll definitely drop the time, but it's definitely going to come out Thursday night. So we can't wait to see you all there. Even if you're Eagles fans, come give us a watch, and you'll get some honest opinions. Definitely. But again, we really want to thank you all for listening, watching. And you can also catch us on Spotify on top of all these other platforms. And go give us a like there as well, and anywhere you guys get your podcasting viewership. So again, we really appreciate it. Let's go Cowboys. Cannot wait for Philly Dallas week. We'll be back here Thursday night. Be there. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good night.